Hello everybody and welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Christian Skoggs and I recently got to see the new movie Challengers. Was it any good? Well, let's take a look. Directed by Luca Guadagnino of Call Me By Your Name and Bones and All, this one stars Zendaya as Tashi Duncan, a former tennis prodigy turned coach who's working with her husband, Art Donaldson, to regain some clout after a losing streak. She sets him up at a small tournament, and complications arise when Art's former best friend and Tashi's former boyfriend, Patrick, is his main competitor. Now, I admit that I've only seen two of Luca Guadagnino's movies, those being Call Me By Your Name and Bones and All, but I always find myself really fascinated by what he's putting out. Whether he's telling the story of a romance with a cannibal or a romance with a cannibal, he always finds an interesting visual aesthetic and incorporates thoughtful motifs throughout. Thankfully, he continues his winning streak with Challengers. I thought this movie was great. It was exciting, intense, and above all else, sexy. The script was genuinely riveting, and I found myself constantly glued to the screen with every frame. It incorporates many time jumps, but it's all done in a way where it meaningfully builds up the story. It was Breakfast All Day who compared the flow of this movie to Dunkirk, and I'm not sure if I would compare it to that movie specifically, but there was a lot of Nolan energy in the screenplay. In fact, if Nolan ever decided to make a romance drama, it would probably look something like this, even down to the empowering sound design, but we'll get to that in a second. The visuals are all spectacular. One thing I love about Luca Guadagnino's movies is that he shoots on film and you can tell. There's always a grainy, warm look to his movies, and something about this aesthetic is always super investing to watch. This even looked really great on an IMAX screen, and it is my suggestion that you see this either in IMAX or Dolby if you can. These are some very exciting tennis matches to watch, and a big screen and good sound will really enhance that. The matches often incorporate different perspectives, as sometimes you're above the match, or below it, or are even flying with the ball between the two contestants. The use of slow-mo in this film is also especially effective for the brief amount of times it appears. The fast editing throughout constantly keeps you engaged, and I surprisingly never found myself lost with its frequent time jumps. The characters here are all very well developed, but they're all awful people. Their personalities are further exemplified by the performances of each of these actors playing these roles. Zendaya in particular had the strongest performance here. She had a really nasty side that I've never seen from her, but it was incredible to watch. The dynamic between our three leads is really what keeps you interested, and it's that type of drama that I think we've been missing from movies for a while. There was a time in the 80s and 90s where we'd get really great romantic thrillers, and I think we've been starved of films like that today. Movies like Fatal Attraction or Basic Instinct, where have those movies gone? This feels like a return to form to that kind of movie, the mid-budget romantic thriller. I must remind you that if you are the ones complaining that Hollywood isn't putting out original ideas anymore, you have to show up to the theater and support movies like this. Now, I'm not saying it's your duty to see this movie and you're killing Hollywood if you don't. I'm just saying that original movies that are really good are getting made, and the only reason studios might be hesitant to continue making them is if you don't show up to them and pay for a ticket. My one issue I did have with this movie is that the sound mixing wasn't always great. The film features an electric score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and yeah, it's really good. This is the type of score that, when used in the right moments, adds a lot of meaningful tension. It's probably my favorite score of the year, honestly, and I'm hoping it secures an Oscar nomination. The problem was that it's often used in argument scenes, and sometimes it gets so loud that you can't hear what's happening, and it becomes really overwhelming to the point where you're missing key pieces of dialogue. I understand that this is not the result of incompetence, but rather a stylistic choice likely from Guadagnino. The loud music is supposed to make these argument scenes more intense and display the heated emotions that the characters are experiencing. Sometimes, though, it feels a little overbearing. I suppose if the music was timed with the dialogue a little more and it had a crescendo that matched the scene, it would likely be really effective, but instead it sounds like someone blasted some house music over a scene where key dialogue is being spoken. Again, the music itself is really great, I just wish they incorporated it in a different way. With that being said, Challengers is a must-see. I think it's a fairly accessible movie, so just about anyone could go into this and really get something out of it. I probably wouldn't recommend going with your parents to this one, but if you have a date or a group of friends to go with, definitely take them to this one. I think there's a lot of interesting conversations to be had afterwards, and it's just also a really juicy movie to watch. For that, this gets a 9 out of 10. Have you seen Challengers yet, though? What were your thoughts if you did? And what's your favorite romantic drama? Hope you're all doing okay out there, though, and until next time.